Good evening, everyone. My name is Benjamin, and welcome back to another video on this channel. And today I finally finished up the house the house maps that I've been working on, and I wanted to kind of show you what the redistricting might look like in 2024. And again, I tried to be reasonably basically playing the part of each state's legislature. Now, in Illinois, I probably could have tried to do a little bit better with regards to some of these areas, but really I wanted to try and create the strongest majority I could that would be immune to, say, a wave year, such as what's probably going to happen in 2022 now that Biden's effectively won the presidency. So what we've got is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that are basically uncontestably safe for the Democrats. And then 8, 9, 10, 11, 5 more seats that probably won't be going Republican. Maybe this one will. And there are pickup opportunities out here and up here. But yeah, so said I did try to make this as clean as possible, but a lot of Midwest states have really wacky precincts. Anyway, we're gonna go back, and I know what the last one is. Hawaii is really simple for, I would say, hopefully obvious reasons. You've got 2 districts, and it's so safe that it's not even worth talking about. I actually forgot to show you my 2-district West Virginia, because West Virginia is going to probably lose a seat. I think I forgot to do it, so I'm going to show y'all. Oh, also Pittsburgh, right up here. One in the number of rivers. 1, 2, 3. Well, really, the 3 rivers are right here, but you know what? Yeah, West Virginia is kind of an interesting state, but here's vaguely what it looks like. Maryland. Now, by the way, sometimes this isn't as good as it can be for a certain party, but part of it is trying to make certain seats wave year proof, so that way you don't have districts that you could potentially lose. Now, Maryland is interesting because if the rural-urban divide gets stronger and more population gets concentrated in the cities, you may eventually see 2 red districts in Maryland. Especially, it really depends on a few things, which direction the Republican Party takes long term. Maryland, Massachusetts. Now, because the composite includes the gubernatorial elections, some of these New England states are going to look a little bit strange. Also, I'm skeptical of the way they have these. I tried to keep these as compact as possible, but sometimes you get some really wacky stuff. Yeah, it's the 9th district, 8. Yeah, that's still the 9th because weird map quirks. Yeah. So as you can see, it's really just a gigantic mess. Cape Cod actually can be somewhat susceptible to voting Republican at the federal level, but not really. Nevada is a bit interesting. I don't think the state is... actually, this year, it might be proving that, yeah, it is as competitive as I think their composite score is showing, but that's also, that can be a little bit different. I don't think this district with the North Vegas suburbs are really going to flip. This district has Washout County, which is the bellwether of the state. I really put, okay. Fine, Nevada. New Jersey, New Jersey, New Jersey. And I'm also doing the Democratic, but I'm also showing you the states that are not contestable. As you can see, the urban areas are kind of getting a little bit more populated, whereas the rural areas not really. There's potential for the Republican Party to do well, but I think a lot of these areas are also getting more blue than the composite indicates. But yeah. So let's find the next state. There's Jersey. New Mexico is interesting because this state actually is kind of there's an argument to be made that the Republicans could potentially do well here. After all, it's looking like it's going to vote to the right of Colorado. Also, 2 safe Democratic districts. Oof. Oof, oof, oof. Mexico. Connecticut, again, this is one where I think the composite is maybe a little bit too favorable to the Republicans. As you can see, I'm skeptical that this district will go Republican, but again, I tried to reasonably keep districts kind of in a similar pattern to where they are. That's Connecticut. Arizona. And this is a state that is kind of doing its own thing. And this district, the first district, because there's not as many people there, I legitimately did try to keep it vaguely close to where it actually is. It winds up being that so many people are moving into Phoenix that the population is centered around there, causing this district to expand into so many safe Republican areas that it could potentially flip. We go down to 2nd district, and yeah, 3rd. This one's the 4th. Is this the 5th? No. 5th. It's right here, South Phoenix. There's a 6th here, and the 7th here, 8th. And really, I was just trying to keep them somewhat reasonably compact. By the way, this is the first state that uses a non-partisan or bipartisan method. So we really could see that, and that was the goal, was just to keep them reasonably compact for this. California actually does this, and in reality, they have a computer draw the districts. And they have a fair vote law similar to what Florida does, except in Florida, politicians draw this. Now, California is going to kind of break the computer because it's going to break the app simply because there's that many districts. Yeah. So basically what I did was I kind of just did a giant loop while drawing these. As you can see, like I said, the app kind of gets broken because of California. Now, all of the islands I actually put into the same district. Is this the 10th? 10, 10. This one's the 10th. And the reason I did that is it kind of irritates me that they're not in the same district. There's actually some reasonably competitive districts for both sides, which I think is it's interesting, and it should cause some interesting situations, I would say. But you can tell basically where people live based off of the size of the districts, and if there's multiple districts that take up a very similar area. And like I said, I tried to keep them compact, but sometimes it didn't quite work out the way you would have expected it to. So this one, for example, gets a little bit wacky. And I think California may have this somewhere in here, is probably one of the smallest districts in terms of geographic area that I've drawn. Yeah, California has a ton of people. So now we move to one that is a little bit less broken, and that's Colorado. And I know some of you may be upset that I say Colorado, but it's just like Missouri. If you're from that state and you have a problem with it, tell me in the comments. Also, before we get further, likes, comments, subscriptions, they always do help, and I greatly appreciate them. And I want to thank everybody who did tune in on election night. It was fun. It really was. And as you can see, Denver basically dominates the state because you've got 3 districts, which is all the Republicans can muster. By the way, Colorado gains a district. They'll have 8 districts. And you've got 1 competitive district and 1 very likely Democratic district. We'll see what happens, though. Let's go to Idaho. And take a peek at this. And as should probably be expected, yeah. Now, Idaho at some point should be gaining another district. I would say in the 2030 census, Idaho should gain a district. And then we go down to Louisiana. And this is where things get a little bit wacky. Republicans are probably not... it's weird. I think the governor has to approve of the map. But there's enough Republicans in the state house that they could overturn it. Here's Nolans. Rest of the map is what you would expect. Safe Republican. And I tried to draw this district as compact as possible. But it wound up spilling over into Baton Rouge. And, yeah. So that's why this district, the 5th, is as competitive as it is, or supposedly as competitive as it is. Let's go down to Maine, which includes the presidential elections and the Senate elections that Collins has been in. And as you can see, you got 1 swingy district and 1 not so swingy district. Michigan, and this is a story of Detroit versus the rest of the state. And you're about to see what I mean by that. And here's Detroit. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that said, I think what's really going to happen is that one of these districts isn't actually as blue as it is. We'll see, obviously. We will see. Let's go to Nebraska, which uses a similar method. And the 2nd district, which is centered around Omaha, leans blue. But we'll see how true that is. And of course, the 3rd is probably the most Republican-leaning district in the nation. I don't think that actually changes with the map that I drew. Let's go to New Hampshire, where, yep, That said, New Hampshire's districts always tend to be relatively competitive just because of the way New Hampshire is. Now, that's under normal circumstances. So let's go to New York, and I'm kind of not happy with the way I drew these districts. That said, some of them look a little bit weirder than they would when transferred onto a map without all the water included in them. And if we look at this and look at this, it makes it look a little bit better when you don't include all the water area. I wish there was a way to get rid of that, but no, the water does make it a little bit easier to do the precincts. Staten Island, and I tried to reasonably keep districts somewhere in the area, but New York City, and then as you can see, the rest of the state is kind of actually fairly swingy. Say if New York City and Long Island broke off, and let's just call this New York, and the rest of the state became, say, Catskills or whatever, you'd have a very good case that it would be a swing state. And it wouldn't be a small swing state either, and that's the thing. Now it looks like we are on to the lower chambers, except for Washington, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Oregon. Yeah. So let's just get going with those. And I decided to do some lower / and one or two upper chambers simply because I didn't want to leave out the states that aren't going to have more than one congressional district. And Alaska's kind of weird because, by the way, this one is Juneau. Alaska's weird because it has some rural areas that tend to vote for the Democrats and urban areas that vote predominantly for Republicans. This is Anchorage, for example. Now, roughly, it's about 24,000 people per seat. And again, I was trying to keep it somewhat compact, but Republicans control the chamber. Well, actually, no. I think it's a coalition between independents and Democrats. It's a really weird system they've got there. Delaware is somewhat interesting. Wilmington area, and then the rest is kind of Republican, but there's so many people up there that the Republicans are basically shut out. Then Delaware. So here's Washington, and I tried to keep the districts relatively close to where they were. And as you can see, Seattle and Olympia area are growing significantly in population, meaning that those districts are going to be smaller, and that means districts like the 4th here, even though the 4th is actually here in real life, basically just flip the numbers around to where they actually make sense in the modern sense. By the way, Washington should be getting another district at some point in the next 2 censuses. It just depends on the growth of the state overall. But as you can see, it is definitely basically a blue state. So the Dakotas, I didn't realize what I was doing when I got myself into doing their lower house chambers, because we have, I think it's like 90 some odd. How many? Yeah, 94 for South Dakota, which is a load of nonsense. And then South Dakota is even worse because I think it's like 150. No, it's only 70. I was wrong. Yeah, I mean, it's still a mess, so yeah. Vermont, I decided to do the upper chamber because try doing 150 districts for Vermont. No, I'm not doing that. As you can see, yeah, it's a very, very blue state that is also surprisingly rural. I think it may be one of the few majority rural states. Wyoming also has a surprising amount of people for its lower chamber, so I did the upper chamber, and yeah. Also, heavily red. I think there's only, what, 2 blue districts? Yeah, that's a competitive seat. It's a blue seat, and the only other blue seat is here. Yeah. And then Rhode Island. Again, one of those small states in terms of population that has a ton of lower chamber seats. And as you can see, they are all blue. And what's the next one? Rhode Island. Oregon. We go over here, and Oregon should be gaining a seat in this census. And, well, it's more than likely going to be another Democratic seat. So, and again, I tried to keep these reasonably close to where they are real life. By getting a 6th district for Oregon is kind of a good thing for them. Right, now we go to Virginia, which is a state that just voted to have a bipartisan commission do their district, so I actually did that in a hypothetical way. I would say the numbers don't necessarily reflect where the districts actually are. The 4th is down here, not up here. So just pretend that the districts are vaguely the same. This district is kind of... I think I could have done a little bit better regarding where the districts were. I basically put in the 9th, the 2nd, and the 10th, as well as the 6th. And where did I put the 5th? Yeah, the 5th is not here. It kind of does this thing and goes all the way down to here in this area. The 7th is... What's the first? Where did I put the 7th? Oh, here's the 7th. Yeah, unfortunately, the 7th has Spotsylvania, and this one doesn't. So, like I said, just kind of... Other than the 10th, 6th, 5th, and 2nd, everything is roughly where it should be. The rest of it, not so much. But basically, you're going to have... By the way, I don't think this district is going to be very red in the future because Virginia Beach isn't really a red area anymore. Then we go to Pennsylvania, which is an interesting state. It's certainly becoming one of the more relevant states in American elections. This is the Bucks County District. And it really doesn't extend far outside of Bucks County. Oopsies. Not what I meant to do. And then you've got, what is that, 3 Philly districts, 4 if you count this one. And then the rest of the state, other than Pittsburgh, is pretty red. That said, Pittsburgh, I could have centered it a little bit better on the city. Instead, I didn't, and that's what I get. Oopsies. And then Minnesota, a case of the Twin Cities versus the rest of the state. That said, it's also a state that can be reasonably swingy. And they're actually losing a district now. Here we go. Yeah. So you've got 3 districts in the Twin Cities, and then 4 in the rest of the state. I was not trying to draw a Republican majority. Let's not forget that these districts can absolutely go blue. But we also have to remember the Twin Cities vote that heavily for Democrats. And there's also a lot of legacy Democrats in this area. That's why they can have a dead even House district, as well as vote for 2 Democratic senators. So, yeah. I think that's actually it when it comes to districts, because Ohio was a Republican one. Yeah. So, yeah. Overall, it was kind of a good series. So, I guess we'll end on Texas. Why not? Let's end on Texas and just have that be the final map that we look at today. Because Texas is going to be the big winner of this census. So, yeah. And I do think overall the Republicans are probably going to be the, quote, winners of the census, simply because of which states are slated to gain seats and which states are not, and which states are slated to lose seats. So, anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. See you next time. Take it easy. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.